If any of you join our trainings here, I like to not just give you the theory, but I want to show you the numbers based on what we are managing here in JWB, the real world numbers. So this is why your average tenant stays are so important, okay? We're gonna take a property here, 2652 Red Robin Drive West, okay? Take a look here, you've got a purchase price of $160,000, beds, baths, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This is a home that we built that our current client has purchased, and of course it's rented. So you can see the average rent here, that's what I want you to mainly focus on. The average rent here is $11.50, okay? So what I'm gonna show you here is what happens if you don't demand long-term tenant stays with your property manager, okay? We're gonna take a look at turnover costs. So on an average turnover, we're going to assume that you're gonna have 45 days of lost rent. When I say turnover, that means that your tenant leaves for any reason, right? And the property needs to be turned over to find that next tenant. So you've got 45 days of lost rent. Comes out to about $1,700 on this specific property. And then you've got repair costs. One of the things that we always share with clients that come to us that might not be popular is that when your property turns over, you're going to have to put more money back into your property to get its great rental shape, right? That was a big conversation with Matt that we had, right? How did Matt have all those costs? Well, it's because there was a ton of vacancies out there and there was a ton of neglect to his properties, right? Does that mean that you guys are gonna have hundreds of thousands of dollars of turnover costs when you come and you start your rental property portfolio? Hopefully not. Hopefully you work with a provider like JWB who manages your property the right way. But is there a real risk to falling into something like that if you work with someone who doesn't understand long-term tenant stays and doesn't understand how to properly manage the repairs in the state of your property? Yeah, right? Maybe you don't have 75 properties out there, but you know, raise your hand virtually, right? Raise your hand out there if you've heard of either yourself or maybe a neighbor who is complaining about having to put so much money back into their rental properties all the time, right? It happens. So you got to work with a teammate that understands how to keep long-term tenant stays, because if you have a turnover all the time, this repair cost that I'm talking about is real. Not really going to be able to avoid it. It's the little things that break when somebody lives in your house for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Okay? So back to the point here. You've got your average turnover cost. I'm assuming that no matter when they leave, you're going to have this cost coming to you. 45 days of lost rent and repair cost of $2,000. Question I get often is that repair cost covered by the security deposit? And my answer is no. Now, in essence, repair costs are covered by security deposits. But what I'm referring to here is most likely what your out of pocket is going to be over and above what you take back for the security deposit. So this is real net numbers that you should expect when you go into owning rental properties. Okay? So a total cost of a turn for you on a very average property, again, we're taking this data from managing over 3,100 homes and doing this for 13 years. So it's spot on. It's going to be about $3,700 out of pocket for every turnover. Well, if you know that as an owner of rental properties, you got to spend $3,700 every time a tenant turns over, what do you not want to happen? Turnover, of course. What should your average maintenance cost be as a percentage of rent? Okay, for those of you out there, tell me what you think the average maintenance cost should be as a percentage of rent. And when I'm speaking of maintenance cost, I'm talking about the repair number that we just talked about. And I'm also talking about the repairs that happen, you know, when somebody's living in your home, right? Total maintenance cost as a percentage of rent. All right. Kate, are you seeing the responses? All right. What are you seeing out there?
All right. I got 4% from Dennis.
All right.
And 4 to 5% from John.
So Dennis has been paying attention and John has been paying attention. I think Dennis has been on our webinars as well, because you're referencing maintenance cost for JWB and for our new construction. JWB's maintenance costs are a lot lower than what the industry standard should be, right? So what you're going to see across the entire industry is a typical maintenance cost is going to be between 6 to 12%. Okay? That's as a percentage of rent. Now, the tricky thing is if you're thinking about investing with other outfits out there, they might not tell you this right off the bat. They may tell you 4% or 2% or whatever percent they're going to tell you, but a lot of them don't actually track their numbers. So if you actually tracked what their maintenance costs were at the end of the day, you're going to find it to be much higher. It's going to be between 6 to 12% as a percentage of rent. Now let's take a look and see what happens and relate this back to the fact that you may only have short-term tenant stays, right? Our big thesis here to start this thing off is that you need to have lifetime tenants or at least 4-year tenants, right? Why did I choose that number? Well, you're going to see this. So what happens if your tenant only stays 1 year? Well, if they stay only 1 year at a time, at the end of 1 year, you have $3,700 of cost. At the end of year 2, you've got $3,700 a year of cost. And in your mind, you're probably saying, yeah, either maybe this has been my experience in the past, right? Maybe that's the reason that I haven't liked my old rental properties. Or maybe I talked to my friend or my family member and that's what they told me. Well, this is what's happened to that individual. This is the cycle that they're on, right? After year 4, another move out, right? It's just a constant cycle. It's a terrible cycle that they're in. So total cost comes out to about $14,800. And as a percentage, your maintenance and your vacancy percentage is 27%. And you get that really sad looking face on there. I was putting this presentation together. I had Kate look over the slide and she almost cried when she saw this guy out there. And that's how some investors are, right? It comes down to what is your maintenance and vacancy percentage and how close is it to your original expectations. So if you only got 1 year tenant stays, you are setting yourself up for failure, right? Common question I get at this point is, then why do most property managers sign 1 year leases? And that's a whole nother training in itself. I am known to be a talker. I am known to go over on our time, and I don't have time to get into all of that today. If you want to get more detail on that, I go into much more detail at our web class that I host. You can sign up for it online. You can go to jwbwebclass.com. Goes into the reality of why property managers only sign 1 year leases. But at the end of the day, they don't make enough money signing longer term leases, and it's a lot more work. But this is the status that most owners of rental properties are in. They sign 1 year leases, their property manager doesn't focus on re-signs, and they have this cycle, and you get this very sad looking face. So what happens if your tenant only stays 2 years? Well, 2 years is better than 1 year, right? If you're talking to somebody and you're like, yeah, I get 2 year leases on my tenants, you're thinking, wow, that's really great. But does it add up to success? Does it add up to hitting your returns on investment? Does it add up to hitting your maintenance and your vacancy percentage? No. We're going to take a look at this. So if they stay 2 years, after year 1, you don't have those costs, right? After year 2, you do. Year 3, hey, it's a great year for you, right? And year 4, of course, you have those costs. Your maintenance vacancy percentage is still not what you want, right? If you wanted to be, if you're working with somebody and in order to make this a good investment for you to buy it, you needed to expect 6% maintenance and vacancy percentage, and you wind up with 13%, that's coming right out of the bottom line. And you're not going to be a happy camper, even if your tenant stays 2 years, right? Again, this really sad, depressing face is what you may look like if you have only 2 year tenant stays. Now let's get to 4 year tenant stays, okay? 4 year tenant stays, 0, 0, 0, 0 at the end of the 4th year. What's going to happen? You're going to have a down year that year on year 4, right? You're going to give some money back. You're going to spend $3,700. Is it fun on my 300 rental properties when a turnover happens and I have to spend $3,700 on average to get it into rental shape? No, it's not fun. But what's happened is the previous 3 years, I built up a surplus so that I'm giving back the house's money in a sense, right? That surplus is what you want to give it out of, not turnover every year, which comes out of your bottom line. So of course, your total cost after a 4 year cycle gets you down to about $3,700, and you're at 6.5% maintenance and vacancy. And that's where our super cool smiley face dude shows up in the shade. He's got his shades on and he's got a smile on. Maybe he's in Jacksonville, he's in Florida, he's enjoying the good weather. That's the dude you want to be, right? And you'll be that dude if your tenant stays 4 years. So here's what we've been able to do. Over the last 13 years, we track all of our tenant stays. We track, of course, everything in our business. And our average tenant stay is 49 months, right? So a little bit over 4 years, that's where we currently are. Our vacancy costs, like Dennis and I believe John hinted at, our vacancy costs and our maintenance costs are lower than what you're going to find in the industry standard across the industry. So our vacancy cost comes to a factor of 4%. That's 4% of the gross rents that are collected. And then our maintenance cost is way low. Okay, this is the biggest impact here because as we talked about, you are going to get that, we'll call it a punch to the gut every time that somebody moves out, right? When I say a punch to the gut, I mean you're going to have that $3,700 of lost rent, and you're going to have, about $2,000 of repair work. Well, if you can just defer this out to over 4 years on average, then your maintenance costs are going to come way lower. And of course, our maintenance costs that I'm sharing with you are actually calculated. We report our maintenance costs to our owners every single month. We've been doing this since 2011. So I can share this with you with complete confidence that our maintenance costs are a heck of a lot lower out there.